Alright, and we're back for round one. Our opponent is mulliganed to 6. Despite not having green, I like having Purist and a lot of mana. I think I'm going to hold on to it. With 10 forests out of 33 cards, there's a decent chance that we'll get one. Not too terribly low. This is a very questionable keep, but I think it's just barely enough. Gonna greet my opponent. Also, our opponent chose to play first. I'm not convinced that that's right in this format. Drawing cards is very good when the format is a bit slower like this one is. Alright, my opponent's black-red, which makes a little sense for why he would want to be on the play, because black-red is maybe a little bit more aggressive. Alright, there's a 3/1 that can do some damage over time. So I'm going to play Purist. Next turn I'm just going to play the Vindicator to try and develop my board. I think leveling up will be better off to wait until after I've got another creature on the board, just so that if my opponent has any removal at all, I don't hate myself for having leveled up. Also, I like the idea of waiting to level up until I have Emerged Unscathed open, now that I drew it. So I'm going to go ahead and play Vindicator, which is unprotected, but at the moment it's only a 2/4. So by the time we level it up, we will definitely reduce, or we'll reduce our risk because we can Emerge Unscathed. Okay, so our opponent is going to take our Emerge Unscathed because we can cast it. Don't need the second card window since we've got one on the top. Oh, our opponent took the Brambles now. That's interesting. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and level up. Okay, I think I can attack because I can safely block here, and I'm going to reduce any damage to me, so I think it's okay for me to get on the aggressive. And if my opponent has any form of removal, I've got Emerge Unscathed up. It's unfortunate to be stuck on white, but this deck is doing okay. It's not the worst. My opponent is getting perilously close to 8 mana, at which point I just take damage over and over, which is a problem. But hopefully I can speed up and start doing something faster. Alright, definitely going to protect my creature here. So we get to cast this again. Going to protect it from black. It's very nice for us to have gotten another Emerged Unscathed here. That's convenient. Especially because our opponent has seen our hand but does not know about that. I'm going to go ahead and attack with both. We do reduce our opponent's damage by 1. So I'm willing to trade my 1 for his 2. And I will go ahead and start leveling up the Vindicator just because there's nothing else I can do with my mana. That does leave up our Emerged Unscathed, so it's not the worst. Okay. Rapacious 1 gives our opponent Eldrazi spawn anytime that it deals combat damage to us. Okay, so we get to do something for once. And it has trample, so I think we're going to want to Gargi. Let's go ahead and do that. Then we will Growth Spasm. That leaves up our 1 mana for Emerged Unscathed. Using Kabir Vindicator would be okay, but I'd really love to go get another forest. That means that if we draw 1 more forest, we get to Blockworm. We could invade nests right now by sacking the other Eldrazi spawn. However, I think that we are fine waiting with it, because I'd like to keep Emerge Unscathed up. It is very nice that we got a corpse hatch out of our opponent. Our opponent should have known that we had the Emerge Unscathed. Our opponent may have actually just known that we, like, that would have to happen sooner or later. So. Okay, this would kill our creature and give our opponent a 1/1 or a 0/1. Rather than bother with Emerge Unscathed, I'm just going to sacrifice that creature, so our opponent will not get the 0/1. The spell is countered because it has no targets. It is my understanding that it would only be countered if it was trying to get one target, but that is the case. Okay. So now we have an Invoker of our own, and now we are also trying to get to 8 mana. We've caught up with our opponent in mana thanks to our Growth Spasm. Once we get to 8, we'll get to start attacking and doing some real damage. Rapacious One being on guard duty is a pain. Once we level up a bit higher, we'll be able to get through it. But for the moment, this is an okay standoff. Alright, there's another Invoker. Invokers are a really cool cycle just because they all do interesting things with 8 mana. Alright. So, we will not have Emerge Unscathed up if we cast Pelakka Worm. On the other hand, we will have cast Pelakka Worm, and that's pretty good. I think it's worth doing that over anything else we could be doing. Thought about attacking with Wildheart Invoker, by the way, and just Emerge Unscathing if they block or whatever, but we're doing fine, so I'd rather hold on to everything we've got and just keep playing hard so that our opponent just gets further and further behind. Alright, our opponent's up to 7 mana. What are we going to see? Conquering Massacre will steal one of our creatures. That's going to be terrible. So we're going to get hit by a Pelakka Worm this turn. That's unfortunate, but it's a good thing that we gained 7 life from it, so it kind of paid for itself already. That Conquering Massacre is going to do us a lot of damage because it's huge. Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and get this person to level 2 so that all of our crowd gets bigger. Then I'll go ahead and invade some nests. It's a little tempting to try to attack with more right now, but I think I'm going to stick with this. Gigantomancer is fine, but I think if I got another mana, or if I was willing to use the Eldrazi spawn, I think I'd be preferring to use Wildheart Invoker. Okay, so our opponent has the mana to use his own Invoker. Ethaniel. I'm going to just call it a he because it sounds like Nathaniel. Okay, so attacking us with a flying creature. Not much we can do about that, and the damage will be reduced. That's another reason maybe we should have been a little more aggressive, just because not only are our creatures extra big, but any damage to them is reduced. Our opponent can gain 3 life at any time with the Invoker. It's definitely getting pretty close. If our opponent has some removal... okay, our opponent does not have removal because he scooped. So black-red. I would love it if I had some way to kill his Invokers. Guard Duty doesn't do it. I really like the double emerged unscathed here, by the way. Leaf Arrow there was a 5/5 flying, but that's not really what we're going for here. Sporecap Spider is not big enough to block it either. I don't think there's anything else here we really need. I could see bringing in another guard duty just for the 5/5 flying or something, but pardon me. Our opponent does have enough invokers to give them some pretty good late game, so I don't necessarily need to slow it down. It's not necessarily in my favor. So I'm going to go ahead and pause until my opponent's ready, and then we'll go ahead and start the next game. And we're back. This hand is not worth it. This hand actually does nothing. This hand ramps up and has something. It's not great. It's a lot of mana and not much else, but it's better than what we had before. Okay, Nest Invader and Bramble Snap are friends. Kiln Fiend is interesting. It's very good in blue-red decks, as I've seen recently, but this definitely doesn't seem to be as supported here. Our opponent might have a decent number, though, so of instants and sorceries. So, okay, Bramble Snap is okay. Beast Breaker's very good. Probably just what we're going with. Okay, and because we've shown our opponent that we have the capacity to give a protection from color, we're going to bluff white up as often as we can. I'm not entirely positive if that's correct, just because that does remind our opponent we have it when there's no real benefit to us for doing it. But if we can make our opponent scared to use removal, I'm okay with that. Okay, so we've got 5 mana, really. I'm not really willing to use the 5 mana for Broodborn just because, you know, it would kill the Eldrazi spawn to do it. Wildheart Invokers, it's basically Wildheart Invoker versus Beastbreaker level up. I think I'm going to play the Invoker to continue developing my board. It's basically a matter of get a 4/4 versus get a 4/3 and a 2/2, so I'm definitely going to go with the latter. Okay, so our opponent takes our creature and is going to hit us with it. That's a pain because it hurts, but it's not the worst. I think I'm going to... go ahead and just block here and not take that 4 damage. While I hate doing it, because I had plans for that Eldrazi spawn, sometimes it's just best. Okay. Now we've got some interesting options. Level up is good, 4/4. Boar Umbra would be 5/5, and our opponent can't have good removal up. I believe that Branching Bolt is 1 red mana. Wait, now I'm thinking of Modern Masters, I guess. Anyway, Boar Umbra's good. It would be good here. It would be good on Beastbreaker. Yeah, I think Beastbreaker is good. So we're going to go ahead and Umbra it up. Okay. Attacking with Nest Invader does not actually change our clock. Leaving it behind lets us potentially block with it. If our opponent does Conquering Mana Core or it makes Kiln Fiend large. So I think I'm just going to hit for 9 right now and actually leave 1 back. Okay, our opponent's at 6 mana. I believe that the mana core is 6. Our opponent probably would have played it by now if he had it. So we'll see. Nope. Removal. No, Mana Core. Okay. Alright, so our opponent's going to attack with a Beastbreaker. I think I'm going to go ahead and chump block my own creature. Just preserve life total. Especially if our opponent has a 5/5 flyer that they're going to be able to try to get in with. Okay, so we've got a 7/7. Gonna get in, gonna cast Bramble Snap to potentially block. Our opponent has to block with something, probably just Kiln Fiend. Alright. Game is not over yet, but we're definitely looking pretty good. Our opponent probably can attack with Conquering Mana Core this turn. Alright, got a Chump Blocker. If we can get our Beastbreaker up to level 4, it gains Trample, which is pretty close to the game. But that's dicey. It requires more than one turn, so I don't like just wasting my whole turn on it. It's a little tempting to attack with both, just because then I get a 1/1 in. I can play a creature and tap it for 2 damage, bring our opponent to 3, but I don't think I'm willing to give up the Invoker for that. So I'm just going to attack with the Beastie. Good old Breaky. Then I'll play Brood Warren, which will just be a 4/4 for 5. So again, our opponent knows that we do not have the ability to give protection from a color, but our opponent probably doesn't have a way to get rid of both Beastbreaker and Boar Umbra. Alright, Stagger Shock is good. I'm going to go ahead and tap 2 creatures in order to protect it from the first Stagger Shock. That makes us a little more vulnerable to haste creatures or Trader's Instincts, but we've already seen 2 of those effects. I doubt our opponent has a 3rd. Alright, so we got to keep the Stagger Shock to only hit 1 creature. That's nice. Okay, so our opponent has a 3/3. Okay, so we could attack with everything and definitely get in for 1 damage, or so get our opponent to 1. And in doing so, level up our Beastbreaker to 3. I think, okay, that would trade. So it would be Beastbreaker against Conquering Manticore. Okay, our opponent saw the writing on the wall and was sick of us waiting around and thinking, so pass. Anyway, I think I was just going to attack with Beastbreaker again, just because I'd be trading these 2 for 1 that would die anyway. This would sorry, I had to type through the economy. Anyway, so we would get our opponent to 1, but 1 is not very much different from 5 right now, so I think that's what I would have done. Alright, so only 1 round, or only 1 game still going on. I'm going to go ahead and get some water. I'll be back for the next round.